Now at 5, Joplin police investigate a crash that took the life of a teen. Kansas voters will decide whether the sheriff should be an elected position. And the latest on the arrest of a suspected serial killer in California.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Time to bring in the plants. We're expecting a hard freeze across the area tonight. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. Let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a pretty cold one over the next couple nights. We haven't even had our first frost yet, but we're going to skip right past that and go right to our first freeze. Our average first frost is about October 21st, so we're just a little bit above or a little bit before where we should be, but you can see all the counties highlighted in purple. So a freeze warning into tomorrow morning, then we'll get another one tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. Clear skies, not much is going on, but it's chilly. It's 51 in Nevada, 55 in Miami, 55 in Neodesha, and our temperatures will continue to drop back as we go through the evening hours. Also a little breezy. Northerly winds at about 10 to 20. It'll stay breezy as we go through the evening hours. We'll drop back quickly. 42 by 10, 28 for a low. Are we going to warm back up? We're going to look at that coming up in just a bit.
See you then. A Joplin teen is dead after a car filled with juveniles crashes near Grand Falls. Happened shortly before midnight Saturday night near Deer Drive and Dove Drive in Joplin. Officers at the scene found 2 of the teens ejected from the vehicle. One was pronounced dead at the hospital. The other had only moderate injuries. 2 other occupants suffered minor injuries. A Southeast Kansas man is facing charges for drugs and more after leading Parsons police on a chase. That happened early Sunday morning. Officers found him in possession of meth, marijuana, pills, mushrooms, crack cocaine, counterfeit money, and a pistol. The officer pulled over a car with defective equipment. When it stopped, the driver got out and ran to Felix Street, and that's where police say he tripped. As he went down, police say he tossed a gun away from himself. Now the man's facing a list of charges, including distribution of drugs within 1,000 feet of a school. We're not using the man's name because he is not formally charged yet. The man was also wanted out of Cherokee County for failure to appear on aggravated child endangerment, drug, and counterfeit currency charges. Midterm elections are 22 days away. One issue on the ballot in Kansas is Constitutional Amendment Question 2. If passed, it would guarantee Kansans the right to continue to vote on who their county sheriffs are. If it fails, counties can decide to use a charter commission to appoint a sheriff.
The passage of this amendment enshrines the right for citizens to elect their sheriff in the state constitution, which means that right is given and cannot be taken away, where since it's currently not in the Constitution, the ability to vote for a sheriff can be taken away. And we want to make sure that Kansans have the ability and the right to vote for their sheriff for generations to come.
Some Southeast Kansans will tell us how they feel about that proposal tonight at 6. The mayor of Stockton, California, says residents no longer have to look over their shoulder in fear. Police have arrested a man they believe killed 5 men in the city over the course of 3 months. Nichelle Medina reports.
Stockton police say the man in this surveillance video is 43-year-old Wesley Brownlee, now behind bars. He was arrested over the weekend wearing black with a mask around his neck, carrying a gun.
Our surveillance team followed this person while he was driving. We watched his patterns and determined he was on a mission to kill.
Police say Brownlee ambushed and killed 5 men in Stockton between early July and late September. All but one were Hispanic and some were homeless. The first victim was 35-year-old Paul Yaw. His mother spoke to CBS News about her son's death earlier this month.
I don't know if we'll ever have closure because I'll never get to see my son again.
Police say they were able to track down Brownlee in large part thanks to hundreds of tips from residents. Renee Myers started this Facebook group to help police.
Our administrative team on this group has worked so hard with the community to try to uncover like every stone and try to identify who this person was who's been terrorizing our community.
Stockton locals are also grateful for the work of law enforcement.
This capture just shows the diligence of our police force and the commitment that they have to the communities.
The suspect is currently being held in county jail without bail and is expected to be arraigned Tuesday on murder charges. Nichelle Medina, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Investigators also believe the suspect's responsible for killing a man last year in Oakland, California, and wounding a homeless woman in Stockton. Russia is now using drones packed with explosives to attack civilians in Kiev. Ukrainian officials say at least 3 people have been killed as the so-called suicide drones slam into buildings. Police were seen trying to shoot down the unmanned aircraft. The U.S. says Iran has agreed to sell several hundred of the drones to Moscow. The death toll is rising in Iran from a fire at a prison that holds political prisoners, including at least 2 Americans. 8 people are now confirmed dead from the fire that started on Saturday. It's now out. Iran's government says it started during a fight among inmates. Critics dispute that claim. They suspect it's tied to anti-government protests that have gone on for nearly a month. Still ahead, a ruling that could make hearing devices more affordable.
Hearing aids available over the counter? I'm Danya Backus with what consumers need to know.
And how telemedicine is impacting surgery follow-up care. Those stories next in Health Watch. Topping today's Health Watch, it's being hailed as a historic ruling making hearing aids more accessible and cost-effective. Adults will soon be able to buy hearing aids over the counter. Danya Backus has more on what that means for consumers.
Millions of Americans will soon have access to over-the-counter hearing aids. The FDA issued its ruling in August, allowing people who feel they have mild to moderate hearing loss to buy the devices without a prescription directly from stores or online.
Hearing loss is very common, but that doesn't mean that it's something that's normal or that needs to be tolerated.
American Academy of Audiology President Dr. Sarah Sitlowski also works at the Cleveland Clinic. She says research shows hearing loss can impact many aspects of health.
It can be related to cognitive decline, to depression, to anxiety, to social isolation. It's really a sense that is so important for maintaining a very positive quality of life. It's how we stay connected and sharp and happy when we're aging.
Hearing loss is the 3rd most common chronic health condition in older adults. It's estimated hearing aids could benefit about 30 million Americans.
People who are starting to notice that they're having a little bit of difficulty. It's not for someone who has a more significant hearing loss, who has trouble in multiple situations, who has hearing loss only in one ear, or a sudden loss, or ringing only in one ear. Those are all reasons that you absolutely need to see an audiologist.
Consumers should be sure to check the return policy. The FDA does not require the devices are returnable, but the policy must be on the package. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The American Academy of Audiology recommends seeing an audiologist first to test your hearing and to determine if you're a good candidate for over-the-counter hearing aids. Telemedicine significantly lowers the risk that patients will skip out on follow-up care after surgery. That's according to a study from the American College of Surgeons that looked at the early months of the pandemic when most surgeons and patients relied on virtual appointments after a procedure. They found only about 2.5% of patients no-showed for virtual visits compared to more than 11% for standard in-person appointments. Allowing children who've suffered a concussion some screen time might help in their recovery. A new study published in the journal Pediatrics looked at more than 700 children ages 8 to 16 in the 7 to 10 days after an injury. Researchers found that symptoms cleared up the fastest for those who use smartphones and computers to stay connected for a moderate amount of time. They say the data shows blanket bans on screen time after a concussion may not be helpful for many children. And having a window in a hospital room could give patients a much better shot at a speedy recovery after surgery. After looking at nearly 4,000 cases, researchers at the University of Michigan found that mortality rates were 20% higher for patients admitted to a room without a window. Their research also shows that giving patients their own rooms and keeping them close to the nursing station improved outcomes. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, a preview of what could be a record-breaking art sale.
Plus, we could be looking at record-breaking low temperatures the next few nights. We're going to check that out coming up. Well, it definitely turned out to be a chilly day for us today. Quite a bit cooler than what we saw over the weekend after we actually had a pretty good weekend. We got some thunderstorms in here Saturday night, which was nice to see because a good chunk of us got some rain. But clear skies, it's just chilly outside. Nice shot. Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, of course, Indigo, just outside of Seneca, Missouri. And we're going to continue to see the clear skies as we go through the overnight hours. All right, let's go outside. Freeze warnings in effect until tomorrow morning. A hard freeze across the region. We haven't even had our first frost, so watch out for that, especially if you have some plants outside. You may want to unhook the garden hose if you haven't done that as well. But we're going to drop into the upper 20s for overnight lows. In fact, look at our 24-hour temperature change. Outside right now, it's about 15 degrees cooler than what we had at this time yesterday. Anywhere from 52 in Fort Scott, 52 in Monette, Anderson 55, 55 in Welch, 56 in Parsons. So everybody pretty chilly for this time of the year. It's also been kind of windy. We've had these northerly winds kicking in 10 to 20. It's going to stay breezy throughout the evening into the overnight hours tonight. And then the winds will start to calm down a little bit as we go through the next couple days. Crystal clear blue skies, 55 northerly winds, 15 to 20. But look at our humidity. It's bone dry. It's 17%. Through the evening hours by 6, 53, 46 by 8, 42 by 10, but eventually 28 degrees, near record lows by the time we head into tomorrow morning. Clear skies, nothing going on outside. We're going to have clear skies for about the next 36 hours. You can see this is the same across the entire Central Plains. If we head up across the Great Lakes, look at the big low turning. So on the backside, it pulls this colder Canadian air in, and that's what we're seeing for us right now. If we go out toward the west, weak little wave New Mexico will stay to our south, but no big storm systems, meaning besides the cold, we're going to stay pretty calm as we go through the week. 7 a.m., 29, 41 by noon. Look at this, only 46 by 5. High temp, 48 for an afternoon high tomorrow. So it's going to be 7, 8 degrees cooler than what we even saw today. As we step through time, by midnight, upper 30s. By morning, we'll drop into the upper 20s. Plenty of sunshine for us tomorrow. Only lower 40s by noon. As we get into the afternoon, only mid to upper 40s. 46 Nevada, 46 Neosho, 48 Independence, near 50 in Welch. Tomorrow night, even a harder freeze. We drop all the way down into lower 20s for overnight lows, but we rebound right away. Let's jump to Friday. We're in the 80s for afternoon highs, so all over the place over the next few days. All right, so we're going to do alert days for tomorrow and Wednesday mornings, just due to the freezes. 48 tomorrow, 57 on Wednesday, but back to 71 Thursday, 80 on Friday, 81. Look at the weekend. Warm, lower 80s. Not a chance for rain till Monday, but pretty good chances for thunderstorms by next Monday, which we need the rain.
Something for everybody in that 7-day.
Yeah, it's all over.
Cold, dry, rain, possibly.
There you go.
Thanks, Doug. Coming up, the sale of a billionaire's art collection. First, though, we recognize a veteran from Southwest Missouri. Richard Green served in the U.S. Army from 2000 to 2003. His duties took him to Germany and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and we are proud to salute Army Specialist Richard Green, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, Apple workers in Oklahoma City have voted to form the second ever labor union at one of the company's U.S. stores. This comes 4 months after Apple store workers in Maryland formed Apple's first ever unionized U.S. location. The votes in Maryland and Oklahoma are more signs that organizing efforts are gaining traction in the tech and retail industries and elsewhere. Two big grocery store chains are joining forces. Kroger is merging with Albertson in a $24.6 billion deal, creating one of the largest grocery chains in the country. Between the two of them, that's nearly 5,000 stores in 48 states and D.C. Famous masterpieces belonging to the late Microsoft billionaire Paul Allen are expected to bring in record-breaking bids at an auction in New York next month. The works of art are on display in London ahead of the sale. Reporter Ian Lee is there.
The art world is abuzz. Rarely does a billionaire's bounty go up for sale.
Well, this will be a historic moment for the art world.
150 pieces from Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen's estate will be put under the hammer.
He bought with an extremely careful eye. He was a man who really understood the artworks and their individual significance.
It's being described as the sale of the century, featuring artwork spanning 500 years.
It's by value the greatest auction ever put on in terms of the range and quality of the masterpiece. It's the greatest ever put on.
And they won't go cheap. Some pieces, like this Cezanne landscape, are expected to fetch over $100 million.
It's going to be a sale which we assume will make well in excess of $1 billion.
Another capturing attention is this Botticelli.
It's the most fascinating because it's the only painting from before 1700 in the whole collection. It's the only Renaissance work, and it's one of the greatest Renaissance paintings in private hands.
For folks with a little less pocket change, there are some pieces ranging in the low millions. Collectors from around the world are expected to bid on the billionaire's treasures when they're sold on November 9th. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
All proceeds from next month's auction will be given to charity. During his lifetime, Paul Allen donated more than $2.65 billion to charitable organizations. Abbott Labs is recalling some of its baby formula. The company is recalling certain lots of its 2-ounce ready-to-feed liquid formula. The tops might not have completely sealed, and that could cause the formula to spoil. Most of the affected products are distributed primarily to hospitals and doctors' offices. Affected lot numbers can be found at SimilaCrecall.com. And a luxury fashion house is charging hundreds of dollars for a bag of chips minus the chips. Lay's posted these photos on Twitter showcasing a particular product from a recent Balenciaga fashion show, something like that. Some of the models could be seen walking the runway with unique bags inspired by Lay's potato chip bags. According to some reports, the leather Lay's chip bag costs around $1,800, in case you can't afford the art. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, an uplifting story about how it's never too late to chase your dreams. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to talk with voters about whether the sheriff should be an elected position in Kansas. Plus a breakdown of money going to road and bridge projects in Missouri and Arkansas, and the start of the Pitt State women's basketball preseason. Stay with us, CBS Evening News, and then KOAM News at 6. Some young people in Joplin will soon start rebuilding Joplin's landmarks for Lego projects as they participate in a program called Iconic Joplin. 12 to 16-year-olds in Joplin are able to participate in the competition that can help them discover careers by Lego building. 3 different host locations, the Public Library, History Museum, and Creative Learning Alliance, will each have 3 teams consisting of 8 individuals. Teams can choose landmarks that exist or envision a future state for a landmark.
We get sort of used to doing the same thing over and over again, and through the eyes of kids, you can see things in whole different kinds of ways. And so, yeah, I would love if the city kind of came up with some of the ideas if children choose future projects and decided to see what they could do to make those a reality.
The competition will begin in December as teams gather together and start planning their projects. Deadline and judging for the projects will be in June of next year. Temperature is dropping and it's going to get really cold tonight.
Yeah, it was a chilly day for us today, but we're going to go all the way down near record lows tonight. Upper 20s for overnight lows. Only 48 tomorrow, which is well below where we should be for this time of the year. And then even colder tomorrow night as we drop down to about 20 degrees, which is a super hard freeze. And then we rebound back into the 80s late this week.
Wow, quite a bounce. Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.